Hey, everybody. Welcome to Ion Live with myself, Joel Nelson, and our guest, Nick Lindner. What's up, Nick?
Nothing. Just rushed as fast as I could to a Wi-Fi connection so we could do some chatting.
It's a good problem to have. It means you're out of Wi-Fi connection most often. Has that been accurate for the last week or two?
Well, yeah. So I did spend a little bit of time in warmer climates. Um, that was like a week and a half ago or something like that. But I have been back. I did. What is today? Wednesday. Okay, so I did Pool 4 of the Mississippi Monday. And then yesterday we were kind of in that Leech Lake, Cass Lake area. And today, we were on the ice 2 hours ago on Red Lake. So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
now I'm here hanging out, ready to talk about ice.
So in a week, you've gone from super warm to kind of warm to fairly cold. Is that accurate, or wasn't it too bad up on Red?
Today was warm. Yeah,
It
it's
was,
like
yeah.
50 degrees. It was super pleasant. It was one of the guys in our group accidentally grabbed his wife's bibs, and it didn't end up making a lick of difference because it was so warm out. So yeah,
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, March fishing when it acts like March is about as good as it gets. I can remember a number of March fishing days where it feels more like February, and then I don't know, that's like the worst because like it's like winter's not letting you go.
yeah.
It's like, oh man, I thought we were done with this. And where's the sunshine? Where's the sunburn? And speaking of, you don't seem to have too bad of a tan. Good for you. You must be applying the sunscreen liberally. Is that true?
I mean, when I go on vacation, I'm like, I don't even take my shirt off. So I'm always like, I got the hood up, and yeah, I don't. I'm outside enough, but I'm just gonna try and not get burnt.
Right. Yeah. You don't need the skin cancer to get bad before you even get 30, right?
Yeah, we'll keep it at bay for now.
I hear you. So tell me a little bit about what it's like to drill on Upper Red Lake right now. Is the ice, what's the ice doing? How is the ice, what are the ice conditions like?
So everything looks good on Red Lake, actually, and I'm sure down by where you're at, you're like probably almost ice out practically in a lot of your area. But yeah, and I live halfway in between where you are and where Red Lake is, and around home things are kind of working their way down and whatever, and some of the shorelines are getting sketchy around home, but Red Lake looks good. I do think like a good dose of warm weather is going to make some of the cracks, maybe be of concern.
Right.
Like maybe the trucks aren't going to make it be,
Right.
traveling around on the lake super good pretty soon here. But I would say like there's for sure, a bunch of ice, and actually it's just enough that you don't quite need a auger extension. Uh,
Okay.
unless you're drilling up on top of, like a heave or, a big pile of snow or something, you're
Right.
trying to get, under some of that shadow. So no, ice conditions are fine. And actually it's probably worth bringing a short extension, just, if you did run up there, but
Yeah, that was always the question of the day. I think before even Facebook groups, there was internet forums, and the question was always, should I bring an extension? And the answer is always, yes, you should.
why wouldn't you? Yeah. It takes
And
all of 60 seconds or 100 seconds to put it on. So you might as well just bring it along and put it on if you need it. So
and then the next complaint or question was always, well, I don't have an extension. And the answer to that one is well, you should get one because eventually you will need one. It's just the way it
yeah,
works.
I always keep one in the box in my snowmobile. I just always have it. And I have a live scope extension too. So well, yeah, you never know when you're going to run into it. Or you might be in an area where I don't know, there might be heaves, whatever. It's just, even on a lake where you wouldn't expect it, just have it. Cause why wouldn't you just have it? Just have extra auger blades, because you just never know,
Yeah.
if you're going to drill into I don't know, a bunch of sand or something.
And I have, I'm sure like you, been with other people or heard stories of trips disrupted by no extension, no blades.
Yeah.
Find them at the local bait shop. God knows where you are, where you're going to get them again. So, yeah, if you get a good deal on an auger, like many of us did at either the St. Paul Ice Show or early on in the season, or even right now.
I was going to say, is now a good time to do that too?
Oh my God, yeah. If you can still find augers on shelves, it's been crazy because down here by me, they're already pulling store sets towards open water, but we know that there's a lot of ice left for the North Country, as long as the accesses stay good, right? That's always the trick. But yeah, if you can find them, you're probably going to get them at a discount right now. So if you save money on an auger, just dump a little bit extra into one set of blades and one extension, right?
Yes. Yeah. And like, honestly, the ion blades are super great. And, you know, I feel like you can drill a lot of holes with them and whatever, but you just never know. Like when I was on Lake Winnipeg earlier this year, I just, in front of the mouth of the river, like there was a bunch of sand in the ice, and it was like one hole, and like it doesn't matter which blades you're using, you know, you're gonna like totally destroy the blades. So you just never know when you're gonna need it, honestly. Like
the bane of my existence was always metro lakes or fishing in populated areas.
Yeah.
And you would get someplace near shore where somebody drove on sand, tracked it out onto the ice pretty heavy, sand and mud, right? They track it onto the ice pretty heavy, and then you get a little coating of snow. You'd go to drill, and like you said, a couple auger turns, and all of a sudden the auger doesn't work anymore. And you're like, what is going on? And I got stuck. So tell me a little bit about your warm weather vacation. Where'd you go? What'd you do?
So I went to Florida, and that was neat. Did a lot of hanging out with the family. We were on the Gulf Coast, about, I'd say like halfway down, like Sarasota area.
Oh, cool.
And we did do some fishing though. We went to south of Marco Island for some tarpon action. I think you may have gone on a similar trip before.
Yeah.
That was a very special bite with Logan Wadelich 10K charters down there. Super neat. Like it was just, we hooked a lot of tarpon, and you know, it was like we pinched our barbs because they take so long to fight, that it's just like, well, once we landed a few, it was like, well, we could probably pinch our barbs now so we don't have to fight these things for 20 minutes and, you know, between fish. So
yeah, I was fishing with my kids, same guide, same place, and I think we hooked 7 or 8. We only landed 1. But,
really?
You know, well, fishing with younger anglers, and the bite was a little off. We had slightly colder weather. We were in February, not March. And what I do definitely remember though is the power of those fish. I mean, if you've never caught a tarpon, it's next level, right? I mean, in the fish we did catch, we did land, ended up being about 175 pounds, and it took an hour 20, hour 15, hour, just
that's nuts. Yeah. Well, you can't net them, right? You have to like wait for them to wear down so you can grab them at the side of the boat. And they're crazy. To me, it's actually blows my mind because you have like the water, like the surface, and their whole body can be on the surface. So, you know, when you think of a bass jumping, like they kind of like power up and shoot out of the water, and tarpon jump significantly higher, and they can do it like they can be laying on the surface, and somehow their tail can just like kick and shoot them like this far out of the water without them having a running start. Like it's
And the weird twists and turns that their body takes midair, I always expected after a couple of those fish, like, oh, he broke his back, he'll be laying on the surface. For sure. All these things are still alive and kicking. So very cool. I was actually on a warm weather trip too. We went to see Death Valley. It's not so death when it's in March. So, and we actually fished for trout. We actually fished for trout in California, which was pretty wild. There was a dry fly hatch in March of all places in California. So glad that we both got a little bit of a reprieve from ice. Sometimes that's nice to come back and actually appreciate it more, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It is a weird deal. So this is such a strange time because we always like to sneak off somewhere warm for like a week, kind of towards the end of February, or,
Yep.
and then get ready for like the final push on ice in March and like a little bit into April. And this is always such a weird time because you're getting back from Florida or wherever, somewhere warm, and then you're getting out on ice. It's warm on the ice. The bite is really good because it's late ice. And then also you're like, every now and then you're like I snuck down to pool 4 of the Mississippi,
Yeah.
So it's like your body is so confused. And like I sent Jordan a picture, my wife Jordan, a picture when I was on the lake, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I forgot that you were on ice today because you were on the boat yesterday." So anyway.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. So tell me a little bit about the open water bites. I know we've got the Rainy River coming, but you were down in the Mississippi. What'd you find? How was it? Was it a little slow?
It was slow for me, but I've never been to pool 4, so I don't know a lot about it. I looked around a lot, looked at a bunch of different things, and drug the jig around a little bit too. It seems like that's kind of the deal, and I'm used to in a lot of lake fish, systems and whatever. You're casting at marks and blah, blah, blah. And just everything's pretty tight in those river systems. And a lot of guys just drag,
Yep.
It doesn't matter if they have live scope on their boat or not. They're just dragging. And so it's kind of a neat deal. Pool 4, like I didn't kill them, but I got some, and then of course the random stuff's in there too, like smallmouth and
all kinds of
whatever.
Stuff,
and
pitching and dragging was always the key. It's just a matter of knowing what to do and when. It's I think the pitching bite probably going to pick up here as we get a little more warm weather. Probably water temps rise. We get a little closer to the spawn, but tis the season, right? We're all thinking either open water walleyes or late ice and what we can squeeze out of it. But tell me a little bit about. Yeah, exactly. Tell me a little bit about the crappies on Upper Red and what the bite was like. Were they? I was talking to you just before the show. It said you guys did pretty well.
Yeah, we did do well. And funny enough, I mean, it was harder than the last time I was there, and that was early February or something. It was just harder to find schools of fish.
Mm-hmm.
But we were with Josh Leesberg, who guides up there full time. He is a super good dude. And he is just a savage. And it's like, we were just fishing and filming some stuff. We got some new Northland baits that we were doing some stuff with. And I'm like, let me know where to drill and like, I can help. But he's just a machine, like just stay out of his way, and so we're just running from spot to spot, or area to area, just kind of scoping around, looking for bigger schools of fish. And then, but anyway, I guess what I'm getting at is we did have to move a lot more today.
Sure.
To get on them. But the fish on Upper Red Lake are, they're like really big and really aggressive and really heavy.
Yeah.
Josh showed us a photo of one that he caught out of his wheelhouse that he sleeps in every night. And it was 14 inches and it was 2 pounds, 2 ounces.
Holy cow.
So they're just built different up there. It's kind of like when you go to the Rainy River, for that spring walleye run, and it's just like they're just built different. I can catch a 30-incher in central Minnesota, and it's probably won't be 8 pounds. You know what I mean? And but you go to the Rainy River, you go to Lake Winnipeg, you go to all these different fisheries where the fish are built different. Red Lake crappies are built different, I would say. So
I don't know for a fact. I'm sure the fisheries biologists could tell us better about forage and what they're doing up there. But I always thought a lot of those crappies ate lake shiners, just like the walleyes do. And we're not talking about small minnows or larvae or stuff they're digging out of the mud as much as them eating bait that a walleye would. And to your point, they do get big, and man, are they thick. And the other reason I think they might eat minnows is they're so aggressive. Those fish, it's been a while since I've done it, but man, they come up and they can react very quickly. And so often, and not as much water if you're using a flasher. You were probably using live, but with a flasher back in the old days, they'd come in at the same level as the mark, and you just see your bait grow and you were hooked up. I mean, it was come in from the side and whack it. Were they doing that for you too, or no?
Yeah. So the system is just kind of like using live scope to find where the pods of fish are. And then just using flashers to like drilling a few holes, like drilling, at the edges so you can kind of head them off as they're moving, and then drilling a couple in the middle and just kind of plucking them left and right, taking turns, of guys throwing in the holes and trying to keep the fish in the area.
Right.
And then as they start to evacuate those areas, you kind of check to see which way they went, and hopefully you had holes to head them off, in whatever direction they're going. So it's a really cool system. And yeah, I mean, Josh, who's out there, is like super dialed because he's been doing it all winter with people of varying skill level, but it's fun. I mean, but yeah, they come in red hot and they just destroy baits. I mean, they hit harder than Gull Lake walleyes or whatever that are just sniffing your bait. So
yeah. What were you using? If you can't say, you can't say.
Tell you.
Oh man. Can you give me what kind of a class of a bait? I mean, are we talking jigs? Are we talking spoons? Are we talking
spoons and hard baits?
Spoons and hard baits,
which would maybe tip the hand a little bit of what you might see from Northland in a handful of.
It's going to be a hard spoon bait or a spoon hard bait. It'll be a hybrid both, right? But so some category we hasn't even invented yet. So you're fishing crappies. I'm guessing you got a few more bites in you before the end of the year.
Yes.
Anything planned or anything that you're thinking is going to be something you're gonna hit before you have to hit before the end of the year?
I will for sure do some river fishing before the end of the year.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely icing too. I would say I'm probably gonna spend 2/3 of my time on the ice, I would say, for the rest of the year. I have a big trip lined up. So there's something kind of special going on Lake Winnipeg right now. And the special thing is the walleye season is open until the 6th this year.
Yeah.
And I've talked to some guides. I can't confirm myself, and I can't say because I haven't been, but I have been told by guys who guide out on Winnipeg and stuff that the latest, one of my buddies who guides out there, he's been guiding out there for over a decade. He said the latest season he can remember is the season staying open till the 4th. And a lot of years they'll stay open till the 2nd or the 1st, maybe the 3rd. So it's going to be open till the 6th this year, just based on how the dates lined up.
Wow.
And so this will be a cool opportunity to get out onto Lake Winnipeg in, a full week into April. So, and the bite is probably going to be nuts because it should be,
Could be, yeah. And they'll have the ice for it. I actually talked to Josh McFadden next week. So next week we will hammer on Josh and figure out how to pick his brain about Lake Winnipeg walleyes. But it's cool, like you said, knowing you'll be up there too. A lot of people will be up there.
It'll be busy. Yeah.
Hey, the fishing industry will be up there. There's a lot of work left to do, isn't there?
Yeah, right.
We lose our ice. Golly.
Yep.
Ryan Repke says, hello, fellas. Hello right back, Ryan. Thanks for joining us. Nick, I don't know if you've seen the comments. Your wife is saying hello to me, so that's very nice of her. I think normally she doesn't pop in on the show, but every once in a while when you're not here, she stops in and says hi, Toots. So hi right back at you, Jordan. Thanks for joining. I know you're a fan. Brandon Rangel asks, are you fishing late ice, or has the shore gotten a little too shy and not risking it? I'm guessing he means probably back home for you. What are shore conditions? I'll give you the report down here, but let me hear first what it's looking like around home for you.
It's just kind of starting to work its way out. Some of the lakes that I was on this weekend, you probably could have got a truck out. But maybe if I would have been out there today or yesterday, it would have been for sure a no-go. So I think it's just starting to peel away in the Brainerd area. And I haven't been on any of the big lakes or anything, whatever, Gull, or I had heard Gull was a mess a week ago. So yeah, I don't know exactly what's happening on all the lakes. And part of the reason is just because I'm I have been actually traveling around a little bit up north the last week, and these reports are so like day to day, you know.
Right. I was up there about a week and change, 8-9 days ago, and the access on the main lake we were on was already not good. Like, not horrible, but like you're driving into a puddle and doing a little praying, coming out the other side. Not it wasn't extreme last person off the ice kind of stuff, but man, I just this year's been a weird one. We get all that ice. Accesses and ice were in such great condition for so long, very little snow. And then Mother Nature just all of a sudden decided to flip the switch in a big way, like bigger than I can remember in a long time. Because normally it heals up every night, right? You'd get the refreeze.
Yeah.
Not so much this year, it seems like, right?
No, yeah, it's working its way out pretty hard. And even the nights where it's, if it's mid high 20s or whatever, and it's 50s during the day, it just deteriorates it, or high 40s it just deteriorates it way too hard, for it to recover. So
right. Yeah, I can tell you we flew in last night and Isaac was hanging out the window as best he could, looking down at every lakes and giving report after report. And he was saying that, even some of the bays were starting to open up a little bit. Like, shoreline ice was retreating anywhere from a couple feet to, like, he was saying, like, you could couple boat lengths maybe even. So if you can see it from the air flying over in an airplane, chances are it's not the greatest, right? So, Nick, don't fall asleep on me. Nick's froze up. Come back, Nick. I don't know if it's Nick's internet connection or mine, but we might have to readmit Nick to the show after he wakes up from his long nap. Here we go, Nick. Come on back, buddy. This is must-see TV for sure. Well, we'll connect with Nick here. If he logs back in, we'll readmit him into the show. Oh, there he is. Add to the stage. Nick.
I'm on like, I'm hardwired into.
Can you see your old self?
Yeah. Is that what's happening in the middle there?
Right. That's where you were stuck. I was going to keep it on the screen as long as possible.
I've got an Ethernet cord. Like, I'm connected to internet, so we should be. Wow. There shouldn't be issues, but.
Well, I've been accused of having Amish internet, so that's the way it works down here on the gravel road. That's how it happens. We've got a comment from Target Walleye. Sup, fellas. And then possibly a troll. You can catch a 30-incher in central Minnesota, question mark.
Oh, well, if it's 29.5, I just round it up. So
I think Brent McComas will need you to phrase that in the form of a question that's acceptable, something we can expound on a little bit further. So take another stab at it. We'll be here for a while.
Hey, nobody rounds up like Brett. So
that's a terrible thing to say, but very funny at the same time. All right, we've got a serious question. This is a pretty good one, actually. We've had on the show a number of questions about getting into the outdoors industry. This one's specific, though. How would a guy get into working with ice fishing companies, shooting videos and photos, in your opinion? Now, Nick, this is kind of up your alley a little bit. Like,
kind of up your alley too, a little bit.
Well, yeah. Right. You do a lot of videography, though, and I think I broke in a lot longer ago, so I forgot it all. And you'll have to, because you're so much younger and more spry and have a better memory than I do, maybe give us a good answer for Cody. Very good question.
Yes, I would say step number one, be good at what you do. So go out and, if you're talking video and photos, shoot videos, edit together videos. If it's photography, take a lot of photos, and I'd put them on the internet if it was me. Like, if I was trying to get, if I was trying to work with different companies in the ice fishing world, put it on the internet and go out with people who are, known, and just like make media with them and help them out. And from there, I mean, if you're just putting stuff out there, working with different people, maybe helping, some people get photos that they might need or whatever, then, you might be able to reach out to different companies. And if you're doing good work, making good media and you're reliable, reliability is a big thing. I think a lot of companies struggle with just working with people that, aren't always, reliable or on time or just varying quality. So, if you do get good work and get connected with some people, a lot of it is who and just networking with different individuals who So I don't know, there's a lot of, it's a process, to get into the industry. But I think once you are in, a lot of the people in the industry, are networked together and discuss things. And hey, we have a photo shoot, we need a shooter or something. Like, do you know anybody? And then you get a referral from another company, or, so yeah, you just have to kind of work your way into it. I don't know if that makes sense or if I'm a little all over the place there. So
no, I think that's a great answer. I agree completely. I think you have to build your own brand and show off your own skill set first. And once you're there, then you're in a position to maybe approach a company, work with them in a little more detail. I find it very interesting, Nick. Over your right shoulder, there is a shot, and I see that as kind of like back 20 years ago, that was pushing the envelope for photography. I mean, beautiful fish, almost looks like it's coming out of the photo at you. It's branded, right? The guy's got the rod showing it off. He's showing off a bait, probably talking impulse a little bit.
He also might own the company, maybe.
Right. That helps, right? There's that. If you look over my shoulder, that's more like pushing the envelope these days, some of the split level shots. And, all I would say is I work for Onyx Fish, and we are always looking at cutting edge, like what's the next thing, how to show off a brand or represent a bait or a rod or any kind of product in the next new way. And I think if you're that kind of photographer and you're challenging yourself, you're out there networking with other photographers, like Nick was saying, and you're willing to put yourself out there. I think it's inevitable that it'll happen, but it does take time, to the point you were making earlier, Nick, right? Like, this isn't an overnight thing or even a 1-year thing, I wouldn't think.
I think if you want to get like media production work in an industry, you have to get into the industry, to get that work and to do things. And a lot of that is giving,
right,
doing a lot of giving. And, when you've, and you might not, make a bunch of money or whatever, for a while, but like, you kind of have to do that to get your foot in the door. So that's my 2 cents.
Good work. Yeah, I completely agree. Invest in yourself, and from there, a lot of the rest will come. Dan Nitro Kurowski says, gotta say the Northland tackle pink rip and shed is on fire on Lake Winnipeg. Nick, I'm guessing you've used this bait on Lake Winnipeg.
I think my last video up there, which was a lot earlier in the year, like January or something, that was like definitely the go-to for sure. And they were crunching that. And a lot of times it's like, well, what do I even have left of these big rattle baits, because I'm not using them at home or whatever. But like, I love that like green, what's it called? Green perch. I think it's like kind of a glow, brighter green color.
Yeah.
And then the pink one is just great. But those rip and shads are actually super awesome on Winnipeg. And I do know like a lot of the guides, they're like, oh yeah, we use those, and they just have like a cool, they kind of flutter a little bit on the fall. Like they fall really cool. And they're just, good profile for those fish. So
yeah. And anything with white, a little bit of white bright in them seems to always do well for me on Lake Winnipeg. I don't know why, but maybe it's a visibility thing. Maybe it's a profile thing. I don't know, but in those colors, like you said, pretty dynamite, For sure. All right. Another great question. Grim Outdoors asks, how did the guys on Grim Outdoors catch so many giant slobby pike? This is a shameless plug for Grim Outdoors. I am not as familiar with the brand, but it sounds like I should be, because slobby pike sound interesting. So welcome to the show. Glad to have you either way.
We caught some slobby pike today and tried to send them back down as fast as possible on accident. So
on the far end away from the school, right? Because nothing breaks up a good crappie.
Yeah, you got immediately release them out away from where the crappies are.
So back to the crappie deal. Are you driving a quarter mile when you lose them? I mean, what are you doing? You're hopping in the truck and like really taking off a long ways, or a couple hundred yards and drill a lot more holes, or like what is when they're on the move and the schools are breaking up? Are you trying to reset on a totally different population of fish, or are you just generally chasing some of the same schools around again and again and again?
Well, I gotta say, like, I am not an expert at any of that, and I've just gone out a couple times with the guys, so it's not like anything I've developed or whatever.
Sure.
But it's moving, it's the old Jason Mitchell adage: big moves to find fish, small moves to catch fish. But a lot of times, if there's areas where there's, a lot of like snow buildup and heaves and whatever, and you think there might be fish holding in those areas, you might make small moves, to cover it, because you can only see 100 and something feet in any direction with forward facing sonar. But if you're talking about little isolated spots, you check that and then you run to, another area where you think they might be holding. So it's relative, to what you're looking at.
So there is much fevered debate regarding forward-facing sonar on all fronts, but on this specific front, when it comes to spooking fish, are the crappies of Upper Red Lake spooky at all to forward-facing sonar, or do they sit there and absorb all that beautiful beamage?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a bummer when you pull one up and it's all fried and it's got all the pimples on it because it was sitting in the forward-facing sonar beam for too long.
Too much Garmin's. Yep.
Yeah, no, it's bad news. But no, I mean, I don't know. Maybe I've only done it a couple times on red specifically. I would say generally, I don't believe. I don't think you can really prove that forward-facing sonar spooks fish. Ultimately, like, humans activity can spook fish, yeah. And we are where the forward-facing sonar is,
Right.
So like, I don't know. I think it's tricky to say. I would say from just my general experience, I would say that I don't know for sure. I can't prove one way or the other. But I would tend to believe that generally speaking, it does not have a very large impact on fish generally. And I mean, it would have to vary species to species if it has any effect on them at all, So anyway, it's like an interesting topic, and some people have really, really strong opinions. And I guess my apologies if you're watching this, or if Joel, if you have strong opinions, but I just don't think it makes sense to have a strong opinion either way, because I don't know how you could even prove it. Like, you might have a feeling based on what you've seen before, or like, man, I was just scanning and there was a fish coming towards me and I pointed it at the fish and then it like stopped and it turned around, and it's like, they don't want to get anywhere within 30 feet of a forward facing sonar, beam. But it's like, well, they also probably don't want to get anywhere within 30 feet of humans sitting, a big fish house sitting on the ice, that they can see the shadow of. So I don't know. It's like, I could probably rant on that for like 15
minutes. It's a great topic, and you bring up a very good sub point of that topic. I had to write an article for In Fish regarding forward facing, and did a lot of research, conferred with Dr. Rob Newman, who felt very similar to you. There's not really great evidence that points definitively towards forward-facing spooking fish. I, however, have had several experiences, especially in pressured waters, where you shine a beam at these fish and you start after them and they're dispersing before your view of the screen is gone as you're looking over your shoulder and walking towards them. And the question remains, in open water, is it my trolling motor and me and my shadows and the other noise in my boat, or is it the forward facing? Or on ice, is it that these fish are naturally so spooky from being pushed and pressured so much? Is it the crunching of the ice? Or have they associated anglers with this beam or this sound? That seems like an even bigger jump, but I've heard people suggest that too. So it's one of these fun things that we like to debate, but maybe won't know the answer to for quite some time, right?
Well, I wonder if they've done things where they've put fish in tanks and stimulated things, and for whatever, reason, and there's ways that they can kind of test something sort of like that.
Yeah.
I feel like they could probably test to see if fish feel it,
Oh, for sure. Have you seen the YouTube bait fish in like a Walmart swimming pool kind of test? They've done that before where you drop forward facing sonar in a kiddie pool 10 foot or 15 foot across, and you shine it at bait fish, and immediately the bait fish, I mean, they respond to it directly and immediately. But that's an enclosed acoustic environment. The amount of reverberation that's going on in that thing. And so, yeah, I mean, I've seen those things. You can tell that that's happening and that's true and that's real. And the bait fish are reacting, but bait fish aren't game fish either, right? Maybe they're just hyper spooked about everything, considering, well, their nature's, the lake's little chicken nuggets, right? Everybody wants to eat those things. So,
yeah, it's tough. Like, I guess, I don't know how long we want to stay on this topic, but like, I know a lot of the guys, to bring back Winnipeg again, a lot of the guys on Winnipeg are like, oh, forward facing is scaring the fish for sure. Like a lot of them have that opinion. Where was I going to go with that? Okay. So for forward facing sonar to impact a fish, like they would probably have to have been caught while being beamed by forward facing sonar.
Right.
And remember that over the years or whatever. And like, I mean, somewhere like Lake Winnipeg, I just don't feel like they're catching like a super high percentage of the fish in that fishery too.
If a fish can remember, do we know that fish have strong memories and what the length of their memory is? That's we got to get some fish.
But also it's like seems like it's just at least for sure very solidly anecdotally true that like lakes that get fished a lot, the fish are harder to catch. So like that's just true, it seems like. So you would think, I don't know, it's a whole topic, but I think it's funny with people on fisheries where it's like, what percentage of the fish do you hook on Lake Winnipeg? Like, have they hooked that are alive right now over 20 inches? Like have they hooked 5% of those fish maybe? It's such an enormous system. And I know there's a lot of pressure, but it's not more pressure than there is on Mille Lacs, which is significantly smaller system,
I was going to say, especially if you do it per acre we're talking about. Apparently we've struck a nerve. We've got some callers, which I like. Anthony Kleinwatcher, stud and fellow fish head like us, to echo the smaller environment you mentioned. I would agree shallow water tends to impact the fish more than deeper water. That tends to make sense to me. The other thing I was going to run by you, Nick, some people have told me because crappies are more broad, right? They're taller. Mm-hmm. And because you're shining directly at their lateral line, something like a crappie might have a bigger effect than a slender walleye. I don't know how much I believe any of those things, but
who has a stronger lateral line?
I don't know.
Lateral line more, maybe a walleye.
That's a good question. We should do lateral line strength testing. Dan is also weighing in here. How do they know if it's scaring the fish if they had no way to observe their actions for forward-facing?
Exactly.
No benchmarks, right? No benchmarks to compare it against. That's a very good point.
And on Lake Winnipeg, like you're fishing in like 8 feet of water, So like that's another thing. It's like, well, it's getting close to you, and you're literally this far away from the fish.
And not that anglers ever look in the past with rose-colored glasses and remember the way it used to be where they all just jumped in the boat and we had terrible fishing line and we caught and bad rods and we just caught so many fish. It was unbelievable back then, right?
Yep, no doubt.
Give me I haven't talked to your dad in a couple weeks. Give me a good dad story. For those of you that know or don't know, Nick's dad is James Lindner, famous angler, all around great guy and a lot of fun. And you have to have some story from when you were fishing either down south or recently? Because I've seen he's been hitting the ice a little more too, right?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. Catfish and crappies, right?
He's okay, so I'm so bad at the like give me a story about X scenario. I'm not good at that.
No problem.
My dad is so funny on the ice because just growing up, like you want to know what we ice fished for growing up? Whenever I go out with my dad, it was catfish, whitefish, and then basically like suicide missions for bluegills, like lakes where they're big, but like, you know, you probably won't catch any, but you might get into the mother lode of 11 inchers. And that was it. But that was the least of the three. It was like catfish and whitefish. And catfish, honestly, super underrated. Like a very, very awesome species to catch through the ice. Super fun. Whitefish are harder. They can be harder, you know, especially like a lake whitefish on like a traditional Midwest lake, you know.
Right.
They could be in the weeds. They could be in 3 feet of water. They could be out over deep water. It's like a hunt, you know. So
it's interesting. I think catfish, a lot of people don't know where they swim as well as they should. They know the popular ones, like we all know about down in St. Cloud, Cold Spring area. There's a very famous lake that holds a pile of them. There's some lakes in the South Metro and down south, like reservoirs that have them. When I say south, I mean southern Minnesota. There's a couple lakes up near you guys that have them, and a couple lakes east of there. But I think for the most part, not a lot of people know where catfish might swim in the winter. And that's one thing. It's like, well, if you don't know whether they're there or not, it's a little harder to target, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. It is an interesting thing. Like a lot of times, like we go to places that are connected to fishery, like river fisheries, you know, like we'd go up to Western Minnesota a lot. So no, that is kind of one of those deals where there's not probably a lot of ice fishing opportunities for catfish around, but like there is enough kind of just sprinkled around that if you're willing to drive like 2 hours, there's probably a catfishing opportunity within 2 hours of where you live. If you live in like Minnesota or Wisconsin or something like that.
Scott Mackner just chimed in. Scott is another fellow fish head. A lot of respect for Scott, all the good fishing he does. Catfish is one thing I've never caught through the ice, but would like to. Chances are, Scott, if you want to do it, you're all the knowledge you have with all the other species you fish for, it's not going to be too bad for you. So I just happen to know a company that I work with that might help you find lakes that have channel catfish in them. So there's a hint for you if you're looking for a channel cat lake near you.
Well, also, I think if they added channel catfish or catfish to the 6 or 7 species challenge fish donkey tournament, I think Scott would probably end up catching one of the bigger ones in the tournament. He'll find them. Yeah.
Just give him a reason, right? Okay, speaking of weird fish, we know your dad likes them. Lots of people like them. Let's think of another weird fish that you probably have fished for with Brett McComas in the last month. Is it true? Have you gotten out and fished for the leopard-skinned lawyer yet?
No, I have not done it. And the reason why is because I was in Florida kind of during a prime little window. And then when I got back, I just started traveling right away.
Is there time yet to catch a burbot?
Yes, for sure. And okay, so when is the full moon? I could probably also check that on the Onyx app and see when the full moon is.
Yep, exactly.
It's got to be close though. And, you know, there may be a little bit of spawning activity on your favorite lake on the full moon. Well, that's tomorrow. Full moon's tomorrow. So,
wow.
So maybe you should go out tomorrow. And if they are spawning, go out during the day if you can get off work. So,
okay. Tell me more. Why during the day?
I don't know.
When the moonlight should be bright, it sounds counterintuitive.
Well, it's about this time of year that they spawn. So they could spawn on non full moon days or whatever. But yeah, I'm not like an expert, but like that's about the only time you'll see a like really good burbot activity during the day is during the spawn, kind of as they're getting ready to do that thing. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I've never any burbot I've ever caught during the daytime has been a total fluke.
Yeah.
Several have been open water of all things, which is even weirder. But
Mhm.
tell me this for burbot. I know you used to do a lot of it and still do some of it, especially with guys like Brett and
Mhm.
other people that are super into it. What's your favorite bait for burbot? What do you use? I mean, just a big spoon like the rest of the guys. You pop a bunch of minnow heads on there. What's
Yeah. Big
refined
spooner,
tactics? What do you do?
big spooner, big jig, I'd say. Like we've used a lot of the trout and pout spoon, which is basically all it is a like a big old lead chunk of lead with a big treble on it, and you put a bunch of yeah, just minnows and whatever crap on the hooks as much as you can pack on there essentially. But then like, yeah, like the MVP jig that Northland makes is good too. And that, they have some heavier sizes and whatever, and like a big, good beefy hook, but it's just the same thing. Get a piece of lead or other metal that's heavy enough that you can pound it against the bottom
Yep.
and, just kick things up and kind of, the fish, oftentimes they're going to rub their barbels against it and eat it off the bottom, or you kind of lift it up off the bottom and they'll eat it. And, so yeah, no, it's, yeah. And glow is critical at night, not during the day, obviously. But yeah, glow at night is big. But yeah, just something that's heavy and has a good hook, because those fish fight, as hard as anything else you're going to catch this time of year. So, and yeah, a good hook and just a bunch of meat on there.
What's a big one? What's a good pout for you?
It would be like just like a little bit bigger than a good walleye. So like a 10 pounder is like a really nice one, but
Yeah,
like a 12 pounder is a really big one, But, a lot of fisheries don't have them that big. Or, well, I shouldn't say don't have them that big, but, some areas you'll catch more kind of more moderate size fish, that are a few pounds or whatever. And then other places, like some of the stuff, that we'll fish, it seems like they start out at, like Brett says, it seems like they're born at 6 pounds, so.
I was hoping you weren't going to give me a size in inches and you stuck to pounds. So good for you, because to measure an eel pout has to be like the worst job I could ever imagine. I don't know. About 6 guys you might get it to lay flat for
I don't. Yeah, I don't know how some guys do it. Yeah, but they can get it to lay flat somehow. No, those things are, and yeah, good luck releasing it. You're putting it in the hole and it twists up and gets stuck in the hole in a ball. And yeah, they're the neatest fish for sure.
So talking about other timely bites, Anthony popping in kind of reminded me of this. It's a great time to be looking at some of the bigger waters like Lake of the Woods to go and target big pike. Obviously, walleye fishing is good on the border waters. I think we have a little bit of time left here up on Lake of the Woods, but definitely pike.
Yeah,
kind of a big run. Are you going to get a chance to tangle with some big pike before ice out, or are you going to wait till open water at some point? What are you thinking?
I don't think I'm going to do the pike thing.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to do the Lake Winnipeg thing, and then I think I'm going to do the Rainy River thing.
Yeah.
So a lot of that is happening at the same time the pike is happening. So late March. Well, I shouldn't say the same time the pike is happening, right? Like you can go catch giant pike on Lake of the Woods in February, or January. Like it's a available resource all winter long. But like, yeah, like you said, like the end of the winter is kind of when it is popular. But yeah, I don't think I'm going to do it, because I think I'm just going to end up doing a lot of walleye stuff between the Rainy River and Lake Winnipeg. And then I also might travel to another Canadian walleye destination to try and do some interesting things. We'll see, TBD.
This is the time of year where there's kind of a lull. I think some ice anglers back up their stuff a little too early. I know on some years where I've really hit it hard, I've been guilty of being like, man, I don't know how much I have left in me. Give us a late season pep talk though. Like, you were just catching a lot of crappies. You've got a few more trips planned.
Well, if you live in Minnesota, it's you might as well just end now, because they close all the predator species and all there's left to chase is panfish. And the bass season is closed to the ice. That's always fun to do. But hey, the spawn is soon for the bass, so make sure to close that season up right away. Anyway, so no, I'm yes. So late ice is awesome. I mean, as long as you can get out on a safe ice, and a lot of times that just means, having shoreline that's not, or ice that hasn't pulled away too far from the shoreline. I mean, this is the best bite of the year, and like some of these destination places like Winnipeg and whatever, super fun to do. Lake of the Woods, super big one to do. Lake of the Woods in March and into that first week of April. I mean, that's a super popular, fun, neat thing to do. And ultimately, like, walleye opener is really far away. Like, we're not close to that. Like, what are you going to do the next few months? But yeah, like people say, like Devil's Lake is just an incredible fishery in March, for perch or walleye or whatever. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, locally, I mean, the burbot are like basically spawning and active and fun to catch right now, and they fight as hard as anything. And yeah, there's plenty of I mean, perch, there's a lot of, this is like the best month to fish for perch, and they're starting to push up shallow in a lot of places, and you can catch them. You can put down underwater cameras and watch them.
Yeah.
So honestly, there's so many neat bites happening in March, and it's a bummer that like no one cares about ice fishing in March anymore. Well, it's a bummer and awesome. So on one case, it is a bummer because, first of all, it's awesome because there's way less people on the lake right now. It's only the diehards, like all the other people, they're over it. They're getting the boat ready. It's just the diehards out there. And the other thing, so that's the cool part, but the bummer is that like everybody's over it. So it doesn't make sense for me to make a lot of like content on late ice.
Sure. I hear you. Yeah.
It's just everybody's over it. And it's like, I would ice fish to the bloody end and make awesome videos, but it's kind of, there's just not an appetite for it at the end of the season like this.
I was always guilty of just saying, hey, this last period, this one's for me. We fish a lot of the rest of the year for different industry functions and content and the things that we're doing. But like, to your point about having it to yourself, not as many people caring, this is a great time just to go out and catch fish of all species. I have to relay a story. Like I said, about 8-9 days ago, I was up north, your neck of the woods, and I was fishing with Mike Hayner and Billy Lindner. And Billy, famous shooter that he is, Hall of Fame photographer. He is the GOAT. I was telling Billy about a bite that we did some photo on late ice. And when I say late ice, I mean the ice was almost coming out underfoot, but Billy was still driving his little truck with topper on the ice. So if that sounds about right for Billy, right? And on the way up, I was about an hour from where we were fishing northwest of Mille Lacs, a little ways. I encountered a massive migration of frogs coming across the road in a pouring rain. And I was hitting leopard frogs by the dozens. And as I was driving to this ice chute thinking, what am I doing? And Billy was fascinated at the time, and he wanted to pull off of the lake and go back to where I hit the frogs to film frogs crossing the road. So that's
just a true artist.
Yeah. I mean, he's like, a frog migration. That's so cool. Can we go? Where is that again? Like, he wanted to know.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So if you know Bill Lindner, you know that's about as real as it gets. Tell me, we just got a couple minutes left. We've talked a lot about late ice. We've talked a lot about bites that you've got coming up. You talked a little bit about content. I'm guessing that game starts picking up right for you with open water on the Rainy River. Are you going to give it a little bit of time and maybe get closer to opener? When can fervent viewers and fans of Nick Lindner expect some fresh, new, hot content?
Yes. So I've been a little quiet on the YouTubes lately here as the season is winding down.
Right.
I've noticed for like just looking at my analytics, and just all these different seasonal videos that I have that get views every year. Very specifically, the ice season ends on YouTube at the end of February.
Yeah.
Completely dry at the end of February. No one wants to watch any ice fishing content. It's over. Yeah. So, and like the open water content, that starts to ramp up right at the very beginning of March. And you start to see it get more and more interest as you get deeper. So there's a lot of pressure for me to get out on the rivers, even though the ice fishing is great at this time of year. And so I might sneak down to the Mississippi River possibly at some point here because, well, last I checked a few days ago, there wasn't a lot of development on the Rainy River yet.
Yeah.
But that can change really quickly too. So don't take that as the current fishing report. I probably after this, I'm going to go on Facebook and, see if I can find any update, any reports or whatever. I do it just like everybody else. Just watch the weather, watch the reports on social media. But yeah, like I'm definitely going to go to the Rainy River for sure once that opens up.
Yeah.
That's just you have like a big chunk of, Lake of the Woods walleyes in there that are females, that are working their way up and, spawning. And it's like you get enormous, big, giant pre-spawn Lake of the Woods walleyes in there and they're congregated. And it's like a really neat opportunity to catch some special fish, so
right.
It's hard not to go and do that for me,
Yeah, and it's not too far for you. I mean, it's just a little skip in the jump. Yeah, a few hours, and it's worth it to kind of knock the rust off. I don't know if you're like me. You break out the long rod again after a winter of ice fishing. You gotta remove the greenhorn syndrome. Get broke back into shape, right?
You have to miss the first fish that bites for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Or do like some awkward boat flip where you hit it against the side of the gunnel,
Get that stuff out of your system so that the rest of the year is all A-okay, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm sure you're probably starting to think about the boat here too, being that you're a little bit more south of me.
I am definitely. I have not yet. Like I said, we were just on vacation, just kind of like you were. But definitely, juices are flowing. In fact, yeah, you should just grab your rods and hop in my boat because I'm 25 minutes away from Pool 4 and a little bit longer away from Pool 2. But there's ample opportunity this time of year. I think it was a couple of years ago we went and did some dragging and caught a lot of fish on the river and had a great time, and mostly saugers. But to be honest, I don't care if they're snapping, man. It's just fun to be in a boat and catching fish that eat baits well in open water, right? Like that's just the
time. No, I totally agree. Yeah, your boat is nicer than mine. I'll hop in your Pro V, and we can go do it this spring here if you're down.
Yeah, I'm game. Let's make it happen. Well, with that, we're at the darn near 60-minute mark. It's been a good ride. Patty says hello, and we're going to have to say goodbye. But it's been great having you, Nick. Really appreciate all that you do for the industry, all that you do for coming on the show and talking to us a little bit about late ice. Where do you direct people to find out more about Nick? What would you have them check out to consume and get the best of Nick Lindner?
YouTube, is going to be for sure the spot. And then, I do some stuff on Instagram too, where you might see a few random stories or reels from me on there or whatever, just teeny little bites of what ends up on YouTube. So for sure, go to YouTube and check out some of that stuff. You can just punch my name into YouTube and it'll pop up. So you don't have to look up some, strange branded pseudonym or something, So I'm not something outdoors, or just type in Nick Lindner and I'll be there. So
Nick's an easy find. Thanks again for your time, Nick. Look forward to seeing you in person, and have a great night. We'll talk to you again soon.
Yeah, sounds good, Joel.